Hey everyone, Jeff Brown with the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about volunteering, specifically volunteering around our work to help prevent fraud and educate around fraud. I'm going to be joined by a couple special guests today who are going to talk about volunteering generally, and then we're going to talk about fraud volunteering a little bit more specifically. I hope you're all doing well. We are streaming live to our national Facebook page as well as the pages of AARP Pennsylvania, Virginia, New Jersey, Vermont, New Mexico, and North Carolina. And also we are streaming live on the AARP live streams YouTube page. So thank you all. Without further ado, I'm going to bring in Will Stoner. Will is a lead with the AARP Office of Volunteer Engagement. Will, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff. Good to be
Listen,
here.
I think we all know that the work that we do at AARP is driven by the work of our volunteers. And we have amazing volunteers who do this work really just because they want to be able to give back to their communities. Talk a little bit about what work AARP volunteers do broadly.
Yeah, so thanks for the question and thanks for the opportunity to chat a little bit. So AARP has more than 60,000 volunteers, and the roles of the volunteers, there's really a wide range of different opportunities that we offer at AARP and what they fill and fulfill as far as roles. Some from helping people get safe driving tips and driver safety to doing free taxes in the community for low and moderate income older adults. And we also do a great deal of outreach and community engagement in our state offices, where even right now, with the pandemic, we've been doing a great deal of virtual opportunities where presentations are happening on fraud, caregiving, brain health. And if someone is interested in becoming a presenter, we have training opportunities for things like that. But also, there's the support that goes on behind the scenes. So you can dip your toe in and do something that we call an easy entry volunteer opportunity, like a greeter, or helping with the technology behind the scenes, or monitoring the chat in a Zoom or in other platforms that exist. But we've also created two new volunteer opportunities that I know you want to talk about one of them, but we're really excited about the Virtual Volunteer Veterans Brigade, which is a group of volunteers who offer approved information in their social networks to help military and family members get really good information. So that's just a little bit of a taste of all the great things that volunteers do at AARP. The list goes on, and we're gonna, I know, direct people to some great resources to find out more. But that just gives you a quick glimpse.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and I think that the work that AARP did to establish some virtual opportunities during the pandemic has been critical, not only to help actually accomplish the work that needed to be done, but also to give a lot of the volunteers who just have it in their lifeblood to want to help and do an opportunity for that. You know, you spoke a lot about the what and a lot of the different opportunities. I want to get a little deeper into sort of the why. Why do people choose to volunteer with AARP? What are they, for lack of a better term, getting out of it? What's the experience like for them?
So there's two answers to that come to mind immediately. And one is, for the individual, it's about just giving back. And I say just, but giving back and around AARP's mission. When our members find out what AARP is doing in the community, they want to jump in, they want to assist, they want to find ways to engage with staff and other volunteers. And that's the part two. They love the connections that they're getting with other people in their community who want to do similar things to give back. So one is because they want to feel good about volunteering, and then the other is making those personal connections that really keep them engaged in their community and social, to be quite frank.
Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So if people want to get more information about volunteering with AARP generally, any resources you could direct them to?
Yeah, so web-based, on the internet, you want to go to, and this might go in the chat for people to to keep track of it, but it's, yep, there it is, aarp.org/volunteer/virtual. You're going to see a long list of different types of volunteer opportunities that are available. And the good news is, if you get to the bottom of the list and you're still not sure what you might want to do, there's another resource listed at the bottom called Create the Good. And when you go to Create the Good, what's great about that site is it's not only AARP opportunities that you can find that might not be on that list, but also a lot of our partner organizations that are posting their own virtual volunteer opportunities. So you can put in your zip code and find a bunch of stuff around you, or things that you can do from home anywhere in the country, which is really exciting. And we've posted a couple of opportunities on there, like we also have a program where we have volunteers who are returning phone calls of people who are feeling lonely and isolated right now, called Friendly Voice. And that one's listed on there. And if you're interested in making phone calls, having a friendly chit chat with someone, that's something that's available there.
Yeah, and it's funny, we have a comment that I think may be referencing the Friendly Voice program, where Gabriel asks or references a resource where people with problems can ask for help. So it may be that we also, he or she, I'm sorry, may be referring to the Fraud Watch Network page, a helpline as well, which I'll put up shortly. So anyway, Will, thanks a lot for joining us. It's really good information. I think what I want to do now, if you could, is I want to pivot to Seth Buffelli. Seth is an advisor with the AARP's Fraud Watch Network team. He is our liaison with each one of our 53 state offices and the work that they're doing around fraud prevention and fraud prevention education. So, Seth, thanks for joining me today.
No problem, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
So we just heard from Will about volunteering with AARP in a general sense. Now, to narrow it down a little bit to the work of the Fraud Watch Network, why does the Fraud Watch Network need, well, specifically, really, what kinds of roles do volunteers do at the Fraud Watch Network? Let's start with that.
Well, if I could start off, one of the great things about AARP is just our commitment to providing resources, information on how to spot and avoid scams. If you go to our website, aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork, you'll find a treasure trove of things like investigative articles. There's fact sheets on 80 different kinds of scams. All these really great tools to help you keep your money, your assets safe. But really, it's all of those tools are designed to be shared. And that's where the volunteers come in. I always say our volunteers are our boots on the ground. They take those resources and bring them to life in their communities with their friends and their peer networks. And that's where really the rubber meets the road. We're volunteers. We call our volunteers fraud fighters, because they literally are doing that. They're fighting fraud in their community.
Yeah, and I mean, I think right now, obviously, the last year, things have been a little bit different. There have been few, if any, on the ground opportunities, clearly. But what kinds of things do volunteers do in state offices, in a non-pandemic, that hopefully we get back to?
Yeah, so I'll just start with the virtual. Even though we have been remote, there still are volunteers who are giving community presentations via Zoom. There's senior centers, there's congregate meal settings. There are all these networks that we used to be there in person, but those same places adopted to the virtual environment too. Yep. And so now they have their community members who are connected on these webinars. And so our volunteers in states all across the country are giving these type of presentations. I know, similar to the veterans program that Will mentioned before, there's a digital fraud fighters team that's taking resources and sharing them on social media sites and keeping that going. Another great resource is the AARP Helpline. And this is really a one-of-a-kind service where, victims who are in need, somebody who may have lost money and doesn't know where to turn to, someone whose loved one they fear is being involved in a scam and they want to know how to address it, or even just somebody who's got an offer and they're not sure if it's legit or not. There's an 800 number. It's staffed 5 days a week by volunteers, and they're really providing one-on-one service with victims and helping them figure out what's happening to them or what happened to them and going forward. Now, as we get sort of closer to returning to normal, we'll probably see in the fall our volunteers return into communities, return to those congregate meal sites, those community groups, to give those presentations. One of the big things that's really popular is community shredding events. So we all have all of this financial documentation that's built up over the last year that's got our personal information, our account numbers, our bank account numbers, our social security. All that stuff needs to be disposed of properly. So really in state after state, it's a really popular event, both for members and for volunteers, where you bring your information out to a shredding event. There's an AARP volunteer there that'll help you get it disposed of properly. So look for that stuff to return in the fall.
That's great. And just to go back to what you mentioned about the digital fraud fighters, this is something that is, we have opportunities that for people who have a lot of time to give and people who don't have much but still want to help. And this is one of those light lift opportunities that I definitely want to put another plug in for. If you're on Facebook, which anybody watching right now is, and you've ever shared anything with somebody on Facebook, you're qualified. You know, you could do this. And it's a way to get information and just help share it with friends, family, across social networks, across community sites like Nextdoor or Patch.com. So visit that link. I'm going to put up the link again that Will referenced earlier, because Digital Fraud Fighters is mentioned on that link. If you're interested in learning more, you can check it out there. But going back to you, Seth, so a lot of great opportunities you mentioned. If people want to find out more about how to volunteer in their state, locally, whether it's virtually for the short term or later on if they want to get back out into the community, how would they do that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. And not, you know, there are volunteer roles outside of fraud too. And the best way to kind of figure out what's available is to understand what's happening in your community, in your state. And a great resource for that is, and I'll give you another web address, but aarp.org/nearme. So you type that in, it'll give you a chance to put in your home community or your home state, and then you'll get an idea of what's happening in your state, and that helps get a sense of what kind of events you'll be participating in. Because the great thing about AARP, we have 53 state and local offices. Each one of them is doing a little bit of unique stuff. So it's a little, you can't say it's not the same in every single state. Some states do fraud, some states focus more on livable communities,
right,
or caregiving. And so that website is a great way to just get a little snapshot of what your state office is working in. And if you're interested, there's a link right there to help you volunteer.
Great information. Thanks for that, Seth, and thanks for joining me today. I think that was helpful.
Happy to.
You have a good day. Folks, thank you as well for joining us today. I did want to pitch one more time the AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline. I referenced it earlier. If you have received a communication that you're suspicious about, or to report a scam, or if you think you may have fallen victim to one, call the Fraud Watch Network helpline at 877-908-3360. Thank you all. Have a good day. Be safe.